Well, he can't actually order American companies to leave China, which is causing people to dismiss the tweet. But there are a lot of indirect actions the president could take. Tariffs, of course. He could also invoke the International Emergency Economic Powers Act and put a lot of pressure on tech companies, especially, to leave China. So the ordering is kind of shorthand for there is more pressure that could be coming at you to leave China, even if I can't make you do it by presidential decree.
Couldn't Derek he just continue to use tariffs as a tool? Why do you think he changed his approach today? And I wonder, again, if how the market reaction, the economic reaction is feeding into all of this in terms of next moves.
Right. I think the president was very angry this morning. I don't know whether he expected a rate cut. As you said, it wasn't a policy meeting. Maybe he expected different language from the Federal Reserve. He obviously gets angry whenever China retaliates because he thinks the basic situation of U.S.-China trade is unfair. So I think we got I'm going to do something without details on what exactly that's going to be. Tariffs are still the most likely possibility. That's his go-to move. He could say, hey, 10% on September 1st and 25% on October 1st on that $110 billion unless we make progress. I just want to point out that there are other actions the president can take to discourage American companies from doing business in China.
Right. You've talked about that before, sanctions and other types of tools that wouldn't necessarily have, the sort of collateral damage. John, what kind of announcement might we expect if it's not tariff related, or what other avenues could he pursue? He's talked today now about specifically cracking down on fentanyl, obviously about wanting to see U.S. companies onshore. But there's a strong response from the National Retail Federation saying, hey, we can't just bring operations back to the U.S. and remain globally competitive.
Companies do not respond to dictates from the President of the United States, although, as Derek just indicated, there are things he could do. One of the things he could do this afternoon is take some steps to try to drive down the value of the dollar. We've already seen the trade war get expanded into currency conflict as well. The remarkable thing is how counterproductive all of this. I've been talking to Republican economists this morning. They uniformly agree that the trade war is hurting the United States. And the president's rhetoric is also hurting in terms of dragging down Jay Powell, the chairman of the Independent Federal Reserve, which, of course, the reputation of the Fed is a huge asset to the country. And I think everyone across the board agrees that suggesting Jay Powell is an enemy is an outrageous thing to say. I talked to Greg Menke, who's one of the top Republican economists, who said, from the beginning of the administration, I had been skeptical that the president had it in him to be an effective steward of the economy. Now he has eliminated all doubt there. And Doug Holtz-Eakin, another Republican economist who worked in previous Republican administrations, said that the only person who needs to change their behavior right now is the president, who doesn't seem to understand that he's not President Xi. He can't order companies to do something. He's levied a very large tax on the United States economy through these tariffs, and all of us are paying the price for that, and the markets are taking that into account.
Derek, when you look at the menu of possibilities of retaliatory actions the president could embark to take on in the afternoon, I wonder what are you most concerned about in terms of sparking the ire of the Chinese? Because while the president may not be able to order companies out of China, the Chinese could very well make it very, very difficult for U.S. companies to operate in China and to even impair the operations of joint ventures. I mean, of course, so many U.S. companies enter China with a partner in China.
Right. I mean, unfortunately, there are trade-offs in all of these actions. I do think we should be taking action against China, not rushed, ill-considered action, but sustained, durable action. If we were to target Chinese companies, say Chinese tech companies, and say that they're a threat to the U.S. military and U.S. interests overseas, the Chinese might very well attack American companies who are operating in China, such as Intel. That would perhaps fulfill the president's mandate to get those companies out of China. It would also be a serious escalation. So we've hurt ourselves with these tariffs. We can attack China directly, but as you said, that risks China attacking American companies directly, which so far they've talked about, but they've never done.
So, Derek and John, let me ask you this. Is there any talk that the talks scheduled for early September might get scrubbed? Could that be one of the things that the president announces later today?
Absolutely, it could be one of the things that gets announced. We've seen that the president reacts impulsively when he believes that he has been shown up by somebody. We saw that in this whole Denmark fiasco this week when the Danish leader called the idea of purchasing Greenland absurd, and that really set him off. Goldman Sachs put out a note a short while ago saying the Chinese have interpreted the president's delay of the tariffs, many of the tariffs that were scheduled to take effect September 1st, as a sign of weakness. It's an asymmetric war, as Derek just indicated. The Chinese have more staying power than we do. They don't have President Xi is president for life. He doesn't face an election next year like President Trump. And if they think the president is weak, they're not willing to make concessions, then you're likely to see the president be further discomfited by that as the economy weakens. And if he lashes out, we could be in for a much rougher ride than we've had so far.
Quick last word, Derek.
Yeah, the talks weren't going anywhere anyway. The talks in Shanghai were very brief and didn't go anywhere. These talks coming up, there's no reason for them to go anywhere. I think if what we're looking for from the president today, the key thing is, are you going to extend beyond tariffs? Tariffs are at least a known quantity. That's where the president has gone. If we move beyond tariffs, we open up a huge can of worms. Some of the moves could be very wise, the moves I've been advocated for a long time, but some of them could be very strange, like intervening in currency markets and trying to depress the value of the dollar, which won't work.